Hi all, welcome back to Node.js tutorial course. I hope you all watched my previous sessions which explains the different concepts of Node.js and live code examples. If not, I have given links in the description box. Please do watch. Today we are talking about one of the core modules in Node.js, the event module. Whether you are new to Node.js or brushing up your skill, this module is crucial for handling the asynchronous operations. So we will walk through practical examples of how you can use the events module to create custom events and manage event-driven behavior in your application. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more Node.js tutorial course. Okay, so now what is event module, right? It's a core module that allows developers to create, listen to, and manage the events, right? So in Node.js, many operations are asynchronous, as I discussed in the previous sessions, and event driven, right? Meaning they rely on events to signal when something has happened, like, for example, reading a file, receiving a request, or completing a task, right? So with event modules, you can define custom events, emit them when needed, and set up event listener to respond to those events. So this helps in building highly efficient, scalable, and non-blocking applications. Think of it like a notification system in your app. When something important happens, system emits an event. Whoever is subscribed or listening to that event takes an actions. So this module is essential for working with asynchronous tasks without blocking the main thread, making it a fundamental part of Node.js. So why to use event module, right? So the first one is efficient asynchronous handling. So events enable non-blocking. So it is very useful for asynchronous operations. Second, custom event triggers. So easily create and manage custom events in your application. Third, scalable architecture. So event-driven system actually are ideal for handling large-scale applications. Simplifies callback, that is reduce the complexity by handling events instead of deeply nested callbacks. The last one is built-in error handling, so provides a mechanism for managing errors through event listeners. So these are the key things on why to use the event modules. So what are the common use cases of this event module, right? So the first one is HTTP server. So trigger events on request response cycle in the web server. So that is one use case. We can use for file system operations like emit events when files are read or written asynchronously. Real-time messaging like handle chat messages, notifications or socket events in real-time apps. Then custom logging, log events, emit log events for errors or info tracking across application. And key thing is the task queues, like manage asynchronous tasks like a database updates or background jobs. These are the key use cases with around this event modules. You guys have understanding of what is event module. So now let's deep dive into the live coding of how to use them. Okay, so now let's create one folder for event demo. Okay, events demo. Then I'm going to create a file called events.js. Okay, so before we start, let's install event module. Okay, so it has installed successfully. Now let's try to import the event module. Okay, so we have it event. Okay, now we have imported the module, so we will have to create a function, right? So event uh, emitter equal to new of event emitter. So we are just creating a functions on it. Okay, now let's try to create a create an event. So we have event emitter dot on. So I'll go ahead and create the greet event, which will actually greet whenever the event happens. It will be greeting the with hello world. Okay, so I'm sorry, this should be this one. So console dot log of hello world. Okay, then so now I have the event ready. Now I have to emit the event, so it will be event dot emit of greet. Okay, so this is a simple code on how to create an event, how to emit an event. Okay, so let me run node. I think we have to go to events.js. Okay, so you can see it has given the hello world. Think I had made a mistake of word spelling, so run it again. Yeah, you can see the emit greet event has been emitted. This is a simple basic code. Okay, now let's see how do we pass arguments to the events. Okay, so we have the greet event, right? So we will try to pass a another argument or some dynamic values to that particular event and see how it works. Okay, so what we will do is my name is, okay, and then what we will do, we will try to put literals. I hope you guys would have learned about how to use the literals, right? So that is one thing which will be useful here. Okay, so we will have to use this literals to use those arguments. Okay, so what we will do is we will just put like dollar name. Okay, so this is how we pass the custom. So now when we emit, we will also have to pass that argument, right? So I'll be passing like John. Okay, let's try to execute this and see how it works. You can see my name is John. So right, it has dynamically picked the arguments. Okay, now let's see how to like how to use the multiple listeners. Like what if you want multiple listeners for the same event, right? So the event module allows you to attach several listeners to the single event. So for example, here for the greet event, I can say this is I'll just remove this cusp parameter for now, and I will just give this is first listener. Okay, what I'll do, I'll just copy paste this and I'll create with the same event name and mention this is second listener. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to execute and see how the results is going to come. You can see this has been printed. Both listeners have been called for the greet event. Whenever it is emitted, both listeners are called in the order they have been defined. So first listener has been defined first, so it will be called first. Okay. Okay, so this is about the multiple listener. So now how do we remove the event listeners, right? Sometimes you may need to remove an event listener to stop it from being called. Let's see how to remove that. Okay, so we have the listener. So what we will do is I'll just uh, remove this. Okay, I'll just comment this off for now, and then we will see how we can remove this listener. So I have the greet event, sorry, the greet mm, listener, right? So I will, what I'll do is I'll be removing this listener. Okay, so first let me call it, then what I'll do is I'll just event emitter dot remove listener, then I'll be removing the greet listener. Okay, then if I try to emit again, it will not be displaying twice. Okay, this is how it works. So I'll yeah, so it has removed okay, so you can see that the listener, right, this listener uh, has been removed successfully. Okay, there is another way where we can also do is, this is an a listener, right? So if you want to tag any functions as such, like this, right? So if I put like uh, listener equal to, then what I'll do is here I'll be creating a function called listener, where this will be responding, telling that my listener has been removed, right? This listener has been removed. Okay, so what I'll do is so here instead of greet, what I'll do is I'll just attach that listener to this. Okay, so I'll put like listener um, okay, so I have given this listener here, so I'll be emitting this greet listener, and now I'll be removing the listener along with, and I'll attach also the listener here. Okay, now I try to emit again, it will not be called again. So let me just run it again. So the listener has been removed and it is not triggered that listener, right? So this is how the how we can remove the or detach the listener. So the next one is use once to listen to events once, right? So what if you only want an events to be handled once? So the once method allows you to create a listener that only listens for the event one time. Okay, so I can just quickly run that how it works, right? So let me just comment all this for now, and I'll freshly create some code for you guys. So event emitter dot once, then it's, we are going to create welcome event which will have grid, which will have the I think I'll just use this. I'll just put a console log here. Okay, console dot log of hello. Okay, so I have this event listener ready. Now let me emit this listener. Okay, so it's going to be welcome. Okay, so here the listener will be called. Okay, so now if I try to call it again, since we have once, so if I try to call again, it should not be displaying twice. So let's try to experiment that. You can see it has called only once, and second time it did not emit. That is how you can use dot once to emit only once. It should not be emitted multiple times. Okay, so here with this events we can also handle error events. Okay, the event module also has a built-in error handling mechanism. Like by default, when an error event is emitted, it throws an exceptions unless you handle it with the listener. So similar to this, right, we can also place like here instead of once, I'll put this and it will be error. Okay, so error listener. So whenever there is any error happening, this particular emitter will be triggered, and we can also display the errors. So I can just print error. Okay, so this is how we can listen to errors whenever something goes wrong with this. So this is the listener. If and also along with this, you will also have to emit it by any chance, in case if you want to mock this, right, just put like error, then it should display the error response. So this is basically how we use the error handling also with this events. Okay, so now let's see how what are the best practices involved when have to be considered when we start using the events module, right? The first one is use descriptive event names, like clearly defined names like user logged in, file downloader, to make your code more readable. Okay, limit listeners, avoid adding too many listeners to a single event to prevent memory leakages. Okay, then handle errors gracefully, always add listeners for error. That is one of the best practices we have to use to avoid application crashes. Use once for one-time listeners. So if an event needs to be handled only once to avoid unnecessary listeners, then use once. Remove unused listeners, like clean up listeners with remove unused, because otherwise the memory will be bloated up, right? Then set max listeners, so to control the number of listeners and avoid memory issues. Avoid synchronous event emission, always handle events asynchronously to prevent blocking the event loop. Okay, last but not the least, organize events in modules. Group related events in separate modules for maintainability and modularity. Okay, that's it for today's tutorial on the Node.js Events module. We covered how to create, emit, handle events along with some advanced features like handling errors, removing listeners, and using once method, right? If you find this tutorial helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. Thank you all.